Welcome to the Kindness Project, the podcast designed to share stories of kindness and share how kindness can make positive change in our world, one small act at a time.
This week on the Kindness Project, we talk about summer treats, old episodes, and we have part one of our interview with Sam Chilton and Amy from Peering at the Rabbit Hole. Hello, welcome to the Kindness Project podcast. I'm joined by a man who seems to be taller than me today. It's Chris Dames.
And I'm joined by a girl who is, for some reason, talking like a robot. It's Charlotte Dames, who's also sitting on a little bar stool that I can spin her on like this. That's good fun. Nobody can see what's going on here, podcast listeners, because this is an audio medium. But what I'm actually doing, and what the reason she is, she's falling over, is because I'm just spinning her on a bar stool, which is fun.
It's too warm for this.
It's too warm and not really aligned to an audio podcast, is it? Me just spinning you on a bar stool. But we've played videos and laughed at them.
I'm a little bit dizzy. Either it's the heat.
Have you ever played that game where you've got to put in like
I can't do that.
Have you ever played that game, Russ? We are joined by the man who is the true beating heart of the Kindness Project, even though his liver's not working too well these days. It's Russell Dames!
What's that got to do with it all?
Now, I've told you not to tell anybody about me liver trouble.
What's that got to do with it all?
I don't know. Do you think I actually map out these intros?
You used to.
I used to spend actual decent time mapping out all my introductions. Why are you just spinning a stool? Were you not getting engaged in the podcast?
Sorry, my brain was otherwise occupied.
So yeah.
I think it was mine. I was just like, we'll just go with it. It'll be funny.
But now we're so many episodes in, I am running out of things that I can introduce both of you on, really. But yeah, and to be frank, guys, you let me down last podcast episode, both of you, because normally when you're on, Russ, and Charlotte's on, I normally get a little bit more of a gentle ribbing. I've got no gentle ribbing.
It's too warm to rip into you today.
It's too warm to rip into me. Can you make more of an effort, Russ?
I'll try and make an effort.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Right, let's move on to the question of the podcast first and foremost. Because it's so hot today. You know what? There was only one question I had to ask, and we don't know what the temperatures are going to be when their listeners listen to this.
Currently, it is 28 here. Wherever Russell is, I don't know where it is.
How hot is it up where you are, Russ?
Yeah, it's about 28.
I mean, it's not so hot as yesterday, because yesterday was 32.
Hot.
Yeah.
But as it seems to have reached summer, what I'd like to know is, what's your favourite summer treat? What's the thing you have in the summer more than anything else? Charlotte?
Ice.
just ice.
I don't have ice any other time of the year, but it's always in my glass in the summer because I hate the heat.
How about an ice on the body? How about just, you know what I like? Just some ice in a bag or in a tea towel, just held on your body somewhere to cool you down. You ever tried that?
No.
You ever tried that, Russ?
I just gotta sit like a starfish and it goes away.
Sorry?
I've tried frozen peas.
Frozen peas. Where you put frozen peas?
When I hurt my knee, I applied some frozen peas to it.
Did it work?
Yeah, it did. It made it feel better, yeah.
Amazing.
Frozen peas are tasty.
I just hope you don't hurt your private areas, because I'm not coming around your house for dinner. Anyway, moving on. What's your favourite? Apart from peas on your knee or your private part, what's your favourite summer treat?
I like.
You consider peas on your private parts a summer treat, Russ? Is that what we're saying?
I do.
I thought he was supposed to be ripping into you, not the whole way around.
That is true.
I'm just poking the bear.
The bear doesn't need
I like
poking.
a tropical smoothie, so mango,
yeah.
Well, what's in the smoothie, Russ? Talk us through it.
Mango, pineapple. We usually buy it frozen, so that
we do that as well.
We don't really add ice, and we add some of that almond milk.
Oh yes. You are talking my language smoothie wise. I'm going to go straight route one, either a mint magnum or a 99. No, an oyster. But the only problem with an oyster, and the one I had the other day from the ice cream man who came round, I had a flake and nuts and chocolate sauce on this oyster. The problem is with an oyster is you've got to eat it quick enough so it doesn't melt in your hand.
I don't know why people are overlooking the legend that is the knobbly bobbly.
You talk about Russell's pea-covered bits again. Is that Russ? Is that what you call your knobbly bubbly?
This is just out of order.
Russ, stop mucking around with your knobbly bubbly on a podcast recording, all right?
We had this discussion last week. No talk about people's bits.
Right, Russ, I promise I will not talk about your knobbly bubbly again.
Excellent.
Today.
There's no stopping him, is there?
So, go on, knobbly bubbly, talk me through that.
Do you know what a knobbly bobbly is?
I don't know. What is it?
It's those lollies, and it's like chocolate ice cream in the middle, and it's got the wrapping around the outside with all the little circular sprinkles on it. And I just love them. I've always loved them.
What are you describing again? No.
An ice lolly that I've had as a child since I was a child.
Bubbly. Does it beat a Magnum though?
Yeah.
Does it beat a Magnum?
It's got more fun than a Magnum. Magnum's just plain. It's just like
no, it's not. It's not because it's got like the crunchy.
I think Magnum's more sophisticated.
Exactly.
I'm not sophisticated. I'm a child.
Well, you're not.
I am a child. I'm not ready to accept the fact that I'm nearly an adult.
You are on the road driving a car. You are nearly an adult. But
I can start the car. I can't stop the car.
I mean, the ridiculous thing is I've gone for a sophisticated Magnum. And you've gone for a childish knobbly bubbly when in actual fact it should be the other way around, shouldn't it? Let's be honest.
That's because you've got a bit of delusions of grandeur over there, haven't you?
Exactly. I think I'm sophisticated. I think I'm a jazz-loving sophisticate, but in reality, I'm just a man who laughs at the name of an ice lolly because it's just got knobbly bobbly.
You also laughed at that Denmark cartoon because the man had a long knobbly bobbly.
Did he have a long knobbly bobbly?
He did, yeah.
Oh.
We had this discussion literally less than an hour ago.
I know, but it's unsophisticated to talk about other men's knobbly bubblies, isn't it? Okay, fair enough. Anyway, I've lost words. Instead of us talking about knobbly bubblies, what I'd like you to do is share your stories of what thing in the summer makes you smile. So, is it donuts along the beach? Is it a cool ice, Aperol spritz? Is it whatever it is? We want to hear about your things that are your favourite summer treat, and you can get in touch with us using this method.
At Twitter, we're on @HonouredKindness. If you search us on Facebook at The Kindness Project, we should come up. If you search us on Google, The Kindness Project, the website should come up. If you email us at honor@thekindnessproject.co.uk, we should come up. If you search for us on any other platform, don't bother. This is not the dark ages anymore.
And if you'd like to write to us by post, just put knobbly bubbly on an envelope, bang it in the post box and see where it gets to. I mean, what? Russ was pointing now.
You know what? I'm just thinking right now.
Go on, Russ.
One day I'm going to call Microsoft support from last time, and the geezer's going to say to me, "It's your knobbly bobbly, mate."
You know what's weird, right? And we've had this a few times on the podcast. People use jokes that we've made on the podcast out of context, and they'll turn around and go, "I know, it might be a joke that we made in episode 72 that they've listened to," and I've forgotten that we were joking about
Barry and Beryl.
Barry and Beryl.
Never forget Barry and Beryl. Never forget Barry and Beryl.
Or the fact that we had a guest presenter that was just called Wizzy Super Pedals or something like that. What was Mike's nickname?
Yeah,
Oh,
Wizzy Super Pedal.
Commander Wizzy Pedals.
Commander Wizzy Pedals. And people come up to me and go, "Chris, do you remember when you talked about like Barry and Beryl?" I was like, "No, Don't.
No, you don't remember Barry and Beryl?
I'll always remember the Barry and Beryl episode, but we've talked
I don't know, it was a bit of a...
Yeah, I mean,
bit of a
like
nut
in
job,
100 episodes time, somebody might come up to me and go, "Do you remember that time when you were talking about Russell
Knobbly.
using peas on his knobbly bobbly?" And I won't. I just won't. It'll be
Two of the most downloaded episodes. The third one was the bus to Cranham. Never get that.
Buster
I
Cranham's a
remember
good
the
one.
Buster Cranham. It was a good ride. It was about an hour and a half.
But when we just talked about a bus ride to Cranham, that was a good one. Who was our guest? Because we don't want to take all the credit. For,
I can't remember who the guest was on that one.
But you can remember the bus ride to Cranham. Anyway, we'd like to hear about your favourite summer fair. Shall we crack on with the show?
Let's do it.
So this week, we've got Sam and Amy on there. Sam and Amy run an amazing podcast tackling issues of mental health.
Mm-hmm.
Now, we know that actually the conversation about mental health is getting better over the generations. What do you think?
I think, it's definitely going in a positive direction. I mean, I think there's also still more work that needs to be done in this.
100%. And part of that is making sure that we have more proper conversations about mental health. And actually, we're more open about sharing our own mental health challenges. And Sam and Amy are doing their part to make sure that we're in a position where we talk about that a bit more. So in the first part of our interview, Sam and Amy share the aspirations for the podcast, why they started it, and share some of the subjects they've been talking about. Should we have a listen?
Let's do it.
Thank you for coming on, as I say. Before I know who you are, I've listened to the podcast and I'm loving it. But for our audience, tell us a little bit about you.
Do you want to start, Sam? Oh, all right. Okay, I'll start. So I'm Sam. I'm an evil recruiter in the world of legal. I'm 9 months married to Chilt, who features on the podcast quite a bit, bless him. Massive animal lover, cat fan. I have had probably a lifetime of mental health issues that I haven't really realised. Probably the last 5 years, spent a lot of time looking after me because I've got 3 different chronic illnesses, all manifest with some symptoms being around depression and anxiety. But at the moment, going through my mental health journey with probably more success or more positivity than negativity at the moment, which is great. And I've had some treatment for secondary PTSD. So yeah, at the moment, I'm going through a good patch, really good patch. So I'm enjoying it, if that's the right phrase.
Yeah. And Amy, tell us a little bit about your story.
Yeah, so my name's Amy. I'm also an evil recruiter. I'm probably on the slightly nicer side as I'm an internal recruiter. So I'm based in the law firm, which is good. I'm an avid gym goer. I love playing football. I play for Chigwell FC, which is great. And I was recently diagnosed with bipolar, type 2 bipolar last year. I've probably suffered with my mental health, over the last sort of 3 or 4 years. But prior to that, I actually had, no, what I can say, obvious mental health issues. And that's kind of why me and Sam wanted to start the podcast and, reach out to other people suffering with their mental health.
Talk to me a little bit about that sort of what you think triggered it. So you say you were sort of I suppose mental health is on a, we're always sort of trying to cope with ensuring that we've got more positive mental health. But you said that 3 or 4 years ago it felt like a bit of a trigger. What was it you think that sort of changed for you?
It's a bit of a weird one, actually, Chris, because I suppose I look back now and, kind of like what Sam said, I'd always suffered a little bit of my anxiety. It does run in my family. My mum suffered with her mental health. On my dad's side, there's been mental health as well. So I'd probably always suffered slightly. But I'd say the real trigger for me was about 2 years ago when there was a real change in my personal circumstances. Um, I started a relationship with my now girlfriend after only ever dating men.
Okay.
So it was sort of that, sexuality thing that was sort of going on. I'd recently got a new job at the same time. I then moved house. There was other things going on in my personal life, looking back upon my past that had happened. And I think it all just kind of came to a head. And it was just that trigger for me that sent me into a downward spiral.
Yeah, it's that change then shifting you into a different place mentally, right?
Yeah, massively.
Yeah.
And talk to me about, because I mean, you say you're evil recruiters. I mean, we are like, as perceptions go. I'm a financial advisor. I mean, you can't get any worse than that. Let's be honest. Hopefully, we do a bit of good in the world as well. That's what I think. Anyway, I think the perception and the reality might be two fundamentally different things. But talk to me about, firstly, how you met, but also how you got to a point where you were comfortable sharing quite personal stuff together, but also then deciding to get to the point where you started sharing it more openly.
So we met 3 years ago, nearly 4 years ago. Amy's
3 years,
CV
yeah.
landed 3 years ago. Amy's CV landed on my desk. And there was something about it that I quite liked. Got her in for registration. Slightly fell in love with Amy. Like we use this falling in love with a candidate quote in recruitment very flippantly. It's not like proper falling in love at all, but you just meet someone, and she really reminded me of me. There's quite a few years difference between Amy and I. What we on? We on about 18 years difference.
Yeah, probably about 18. We'll round it up to 20 for argument's sake. No, I'm only joking.
Why not round it up? I mean, Amy, you could have rounded it down to 50, but you didn't. I'm loving that move.
It's when she tells me she's now going to round my most recent birthday just up to 50, just because it makes it easier, and she's nearer 25. That'll be the real shocker. But we were working with Amy as a candidate, and then we had a need in the agency I work in for some sort of assistance and help. And I spoke to my MD and said, look, we've got Amy, and he'd met her when she came in and registered. And I said, she doesn't want to do consultancy work. She's tried it before, doesn't like it. So we had to do a bit of a sales piece, sell it as a real interim role. 3 months later, she sat opposite me, absolute dream team. We not just the banter, but we worked together so well. The money I was making, and it shouldn't all be about money making, but I could see what a positive impact she was having. Sadly, a couple of our clients needed a new in-house recruiter. Internal recruitment started to become a bit buzzy. So sadly, we placed Amy with one of our clients. But between Amy and I, we didn't just stay client and consultancy. We actually became more friends outside when she moved on. And we just stayed in touch, really. I think that's fair to say, isn't it? Do you want to do the next bit, Amy, about how we came up with the podcast? I think that's fair. I've done the meeting bit.
Yeah, so I suppose it happened at different times for myself and Sam. Mine happened quite early on during COVID, and I had quite a long period of work. So I didn't go into work. Wasn't in the office. Obviously, no one was, but I completely shut down from work. So I had a long period where I was actually off work. And obviously working so closely with Sam as a contact in the business world, but also as a friend, there was many of occasions where I kind of reached out to her and had that conversation to say why I wasn't well. And it got kind of past the point of being able to hide it. I wasn't off for a cold. I wasn't off because I had a migraine. It was weeks upon weeks. So I was very honest and open about what was going. Me and Sam had some really good conversations, and at that time, I suppose, upon reflection now, and I think it's fair to say in regards to Sam, that she was probably going through it as well.
Yeah.
Hadn't quite come to the realization of the fact that perhaps she needed some professional help. And also I wasn't in that place either to perhaps probe Sam on what was going on. It was only later in the year that Sam reached out to me and said, shit, like, Amy, sorry to swear, but Amy, like, this is happening to me as well.
Serious now.
Yeah, and we had that conversation, and it was really good. It was a really good conversation where we both sort of had that realization that, mental health can happen to anyone, even with that 20-year age gap. It can hit anyone, and it can hit at any time, and that's where the sort of mutual understanding came from. And then we kind of, over a sort of cup of tea and a virtual chat over Zoom, we come up with the idea of, if it's helped both of us having this conversation with each other, who could it help if we put it out there?
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah,
Chris, sorry to interrupt. Amy does do a blog as well. And that's
yes,
how
sorry, I should have said that.
This all started. And I'd been reading her blog, and we've been having these amazing little Zoom chats. They were never on the telephone. And Amy used to say, I don't want to do it on I don't want to do just messages. Let's have a Zoom. Let me see your face almost. I want to talk to you. And it was just during one of those Zooms, we've been so open and honest. And I had all these questions about antidepressants because my hair started changing texture, which might not mean much to many people. But for me, seeing my hair go from being nice and shiny to lank, and I can't wash it, or if I wash it, it still looks dirty. I was like, Ames, what's going on? Like, and she'd be like, it's your antidepressants. Or I slept for 2 weeks. The minute I started taking antidepressants, I was sleeping 20 hours a day, which is, I still laugh because I suffer with chronic fatigue, but I could still sleep even more than I ever have done before. And Amy was like, but this is your body getting used to antidepressants. It needs this chill out time. And I think Chilts could have probably told me that, but would I have listened to him? I needed somebody that could go, this isn't unusual. And I'd be like, but why did no one tell me this? Why did nobody say the antidepressants might be really positive on one side, but actually there could be some side effects that aren't just about numbing your feelings. They could be doing things sort of a bit more internally, which then come out sort of physically different to what you had before.
Yeah,
I suppose potentially one of the reasons is, despite us making amazing amounts of progress towards having really sensible grown-up conversations about mental health, we've still got a way to go, right?
Definitely. I think.
Yeah, no,
think?
Massively. I do think I do think that nowadays there is becoming less stigma around mental health, but the only way you're ever going to break barriers, down for anything, not just mental health, is by talking about it and normalizing things as much as possible. And it is happening, and we are seeing changes, but it's only through myself and Sam doing things like the podcast and my mental health blog. I had people reach out to me who I hadn't spoken to in years. I went to uni with them. Some of them I went to school with. And it was just nice to hear that, one, I wasn't alone, and also the fact that people felt they could talk to me. And it's an eye-opener, because it does make you feel like, wow, like what I'm actually doing is helping people.
Yeah.
But Amy, not only, again, I've got my own personal opinion on it. Not only are you alone, we're probably, all of us are probably in the majority of having mental health challenges at some stage in our lives, right? So I think the more we open up, the more we normalise some of those experiences that we might go through, the more that we can have sort of intelligent grown-up conversations about them. I don't know, but it is a brave thing to do in terms of sharing the experiences that you've gone through. Tell me about the thing that you felt was most difficult to share on the podcast.
For me, I haven't found it difficult, because it feels like we're doing this. We're just chatting. it's my friend and someone who is going through a similar, albeit different journey. And every time we do an episode, I go away going, my God, I didn't know that for Amy. Or if I did know it, maybe because I wasn't very well myself, I hadn't sort of recognised it and held on to it. The thing I find most difficult is, we were talking about this just before we started this conversation between Amy and I have to do the recording at a certain time. And we took a break after 6 episodes because I wasn't very well, and I'm so glad Amy instigated it, because what's really easy to do is we think we're doing this great thing and we're helping all these people and we're talking about mental health, but actually if we don't look after ourselves, the podcast is going to be useless. So if anyone's listened to the one about where I talk about I feel mental health medication should be free, I get a bit ranty. And my friend said, you got really ranty. And I was like, it's a Friday afternoon. I was tired. It'd been a long week at work. We're never doing a Friday afternoon recording ever again.
It's funny. We so two points on that. Funny enough, I'm writing the book about the podcast at the minute. So I'm writing the Kindness Project book. As I'm writing it, I'm 40,000 words in, and it's sat at the bottom of my sort of Word documents for about 8 months, because the editing job is the one that I'm trying to avoid. But I'll get around to it eventually. But chapter 1 is being kinder to ourselves, because it's that olden sort of example. If you're on a plane, what do? You, like, if the plane, something happens, your oxygen mask falls down, you make sure you're okay before you look at helping other people. And it's so important making sure that you do that. One thing, I think you mentioned it before we started interviewing Amy, is that cathartic nature of just talking about this sort of stuff, and how just talking can be an amazing release. Have you both felt that?
Yeah, massively. I mean, just going back to your other question, Chris, the thing that I found the hardest is reflecting on the place I was in. There's times where I sort of talk to Sam and I'll be saying something and I'll be like, oh God, that actually was how I felt. And it's so different, so hugely different to how I feel this year.
Yeah.
And actually it's a month today to the date. So I went into hospital July the 25th last year. And I look back and I think, wow, 11 months ago, look where I was and look how far I've come. So, that's the hardest thing for me, is when reflecting on it, it can be quite difficult in that sense. But in regards to talking about it and, having open and honest conversations, I find it therapeutic. I find it very therapeutic. I feel like actually it's good for me to realize how far I've come, and it's good for me to reflect on that. So yeah, definitely.
So talk to me a little bit, and again, I'm going off script because I did send you some questions through, but because I'm quite curious, should we ignore the script for a little while and just talk about something else? So here's what I'm curious about. So you talk about this sort of stuff happening last year, and nobody on these calls lived through anything like lockdown or COVID or anything like that. I suppose what I'm interested in, particularly after listening to a few episodes, is whether COVID was the sort of thing that potentially pushed you over the ledge, or lockdown was the thing that where you thought, or was it gave you, like, you had a really super busy life and then it gave you more time to contemplate mental health? What do you think on that? What are your thoughts?
I completely think it was the second part of what you said. I do think mental health has always been within me, but I've had, me and Sam spoke about this actually last week. We've had things to keep us busy.
Well, I've heard you talk about that on the podcast, actually.
Yeah.
It's that, like, keeping busy to avoid thinking about it.
Yeah, exactly that. And I know, Sam, you've struggled with that, haven't you, the most?
Yeah, definitely. But I think I genuinely believe that lockdown saved my life.
Oh, 100%.
Because I think as much as my my trauma that led to my PTSD was 6 years ago, but because of the life I led, I didn't have to deal with it. I say I didn't have to deal with it. I didn't deal with it. And I'm in this busy job and I can give my all to it and it's really sociable and I can go and put my mask on.
Yeah.
And when I'm feeling tired and a bit ratty, I can blame it on my chronic illnesses.
Yeah,
Actually, I'm a great believer that mental and physical all go in one anyway, and it's getting a balance. And what COVID and lockdown enabled me to do, work stripped away from me. I went, I am my job, and it was taken away from me. But also, Chilton and I had our wedding booked for the May 2020. And from the beginning of the year, we were getting to the point we were about to pay balances. And then COVID came in because, we were less than 12 weeks away from the wedding. Everyone wanted their money. COVID came in. We then we postponed. Then to the June, and then we cancelled. Then we changed location. Then we booked it, but didn't know what it was going to look like, and we had to change all these little things were just building and building and building in my head, but kept me busy. So the work bit wasn't so bad. For me, it was after the wedding. No work or minimal work, no wedding. That was, my head just exploded. Everything came out. But because of lockdown, I wasn't having to make, as Amy said, you're not having to lie to anyone. You're not having to hide because you're not seeing anyone. You can just concentrate on you. But then likewise, I don't want people to feel, because we're not in lockdown as much, and hopefully won't ever be again, that they can't recover. For me, it was the best way. But that's because of me and my mental health.
But finding the time away from that busy life to contemplate your mental health is important, is what we're saying, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. And it's giving it that daily. So I had a little realization. I've not done this for a while, and we do talk about this on the podcast. I want mental health to be like physical health. If you wake up in the morning and go, oh, I've got a bit of a sore throat, or is it cold, is it hay fever? I realized last week I've not been doing that. And this week I woke up today and went, oh, my glands are a bit up. Oh, I've not gone, oh, how's my head feeling? I've had a really busy week in work. I've gone from having a couple of jobs to loads of jobs. My energy levels are all over the show. Not done that. So I've got to
get the balance right.
Yeah, get that balance right.
And it's weird because I've had a really busy week. Went out for a really short run on Tuesday. So my sort of release is exercise as well, you combining that sort of physical and mental health, and sometimes just need to say, look, it doesn't matter how busy I am, I need to go and have that cathartic run, or sort of chuck balls around in the gym, or I'm going to say this, and I hope my trainer at my gym doesn't hear this. Sometimes it's helpful to do burpees for my own mental health, and I'll never say that again. Just so, Russ, cut that out of this podcast, mate, because I just don't want that public. Anyway,
I must say it though. I did 64 burpees and gym shed the other night. I've damaged my ankle, can't run at the moment. But I went, oh, do you know what? And I actually told my boot camp instructor I was going to do it, because I used a naughty word in my last boot camp, and I said, as punishment, I'm going to do it. I think he thought I was going to say 10. I was like, I did 64. But EMOM, every minute on the minute, really boring on your own.
Yeah.
So
I'd never do a burpee unless somebody was shouting at me the word burpee, to be honest. I'd never do a voluntary burpee, let's be honest. But they are good for you.
Hate
so
burpees, nothing worse.
That's good. Yeah. So that was part one of the interview with Sam and Amy. Now, Russ, you know the name of their podcast, don't you?
Yeah, I think it's Peering Through the Rabbit Hole.
Yeah. So make sure you check out part two of Sam and Amy's interview next week on the Kindness Project. But I know they're on Spotify. If you just look at Peering Through the Rabbit Hole on Spotify.
And also add that to the show notes when...
Yeah. So when you check out the show notes for the Kindness Project on the website, you'll be able to find that there. Shall we get on with the end of the show?
Let's do it. welcome. 'Tis the end.
Of another podcast.
Oh, another podcast. Sorry, I found it on Google.
It's peering at the rabbit hole just to make sure that you're searching for it in the right way.
Quick search on Google Podcasts.
So certainly check that out and make sure that you're in a position where you have a look. But the end of a podcast is
never
really
truly the end,
because
the end is always the beginning of something entirely new.
And we've always got that question that we ask every single week, question of the podcast. And last week's question of the podcast was, what is it? What made you most proud about being in the country that you've chosen to call home? And we've got a few answers. Some of them, this question wasn't particularly popular, not as popular as one of our more trivial questions, but still pretty popular. David Bowley said he's proud of supporting England. John Cook said, it's always been the fact that it's a country that anyone can call home, though my faith in that is shaken right now. I'm more optimistic than that. I think the outpouring of goodwill, as we spoke about last week, the outpouring of goodwill means that there's more people doing good stuff than bad. Dave Forsyth said, I love the fact that as a small island, we regularly punch above our weight in all walks. Finance, sport, industry, science. The UK is either leading the way or up there with the best. Clive Jelf, I would love my country more if we believed and looked forward more rather than wallowing in the past and rejoicing from past glories. And I suppose that's a fair comment. I think being forward thinking and optimistic is probably the way to go. And Brian Hill, who I know is British, is English, but he's recently moved to Italy, has just put, we won Euro 2021. So he's proud to be Italian. And on that, it's the end of another podcast.
Oh, bye.
Have a lovely
week, month, year.
Have a lovely week, month, year. Hope you're...
Oh, are we doing this finishing each other's sentences thing?
Yeah.
No.
Hope you're...
having a good day, a good hour, good minute, good seconds.
Have a nice time. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.